Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Chaitanyam Sarvagam Sarvam Sarvabhuta Guhashayam Yat Sarva Vishayatitam Tasmai Sarva Vide Namaha. Bijam chaikam yathabhinnam pranaswapnadibhistasa swapna jagrat sharireshu tadvachatma jalenduvat. Explaining the diverse expressions of Atma or the Self, how I find myself a waker, a dreamer, a deep sleeper, an individual being, there's a cosmic being. All these diverse expressions are there of Atma or consciousness. They are due to Bijam, called the cause, the Upadana Karana, material cause, which is Maya. Yatha Bhinnam, what gets diversified? Is that Bijam, Maya, the Upadi or the costume is what gets diversified as Vyashti and Samashti, individual and cosmic, as the total or individual and total gross bodies, subtle bodies, causal bodies. It is the nature of Maya to manifest in these diverse ways. I am reading verse 28. And because of that, Jalanduvata, just as it is water which manifests as variety of containers with different properties, sometimes clean, sometimes dirty, sometimes steady, sometimes unsteady, and how by default moon appears variously. So also the Atma appears as waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna, Virat, etc. But when Atma gets reflected as though or manifests in this manner, then will it not also be affected by where it gets reflected? The medium is shaky, Atma appears shaky, medium is dirty, Atma appears dull. Doesn't Atma get affected? Maya hastinam arohyam, Mayavi eko yathavrajet. Does not Atma become many? Does not Atma become diverse? Doesn't Atma get changing, modifying? Says no. Eko Mayavi, just as one magician, Maya Hastinam Aruhya, one magician creates a magical elephant and rides on that elephant, appears to ride on that elephant. Yatha vrajet agachan, he goes and comes. This is what the spectators see. Tadeva atma pranasvapnadigochara. So also, it is this waker, dreamer, deep sleeper are similar to the one riding a magical elephant. Maya is the magical elephant. And Atma reflected in Maya is like the one riding the magical elephant. When all this is going on, the real magician is standing on the side, is one changeless. So when all these appearances are going on, a waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, the real self is on the side as a witness, transcending everything, as one non-dual, changeless. And further, this is from the standpoint of the upadhi, waking upadhi, dream upadhi, etc. Na asti na tadarudha mayavi anyo yathastitaha. In that example of magic and reality, there is no elephant, no rider of elephant. All there is just magician who is standing on the side. Now, in this case, elephant is upadhi. The waking, dream, deep sleep, and therefore the Vishwa, Vaishvanara, or the cosmic gross body, individual gross body, Vyasti Sthula Shariram, Samasti Sthula Shariram, this is like the Hasti, elephant. And the Vishwa, Vaishvanara is like the rider on the elephant. They are not there. All there is just one Mayavi, one consciousness. Na pranadi. So from the standpoint of the upadhi, it looks like Atma is appearing variously. From the standpoint of when you shift the attention or the focus on Atma, there is no upadhi at all. Where upadhi is, Atma is as though reflected. And therefore, when the upadhi is made note of, then Atma appears as though diverse. But when you focus attention on Atma, there is no upadhi. There is no hasti, na tadarudah, just as no elephant, no rider, no prana here, or no drashta. Neither the Hiranyagarbha nor the witness of Hiranyagarbha, Gnyaha, Anya, Sadadrishihi. Like that magician, all there is Gnyaha, the consciousness. Anya, transcending all of this, Sadadrishi, of the nature of always Drishi Swarupam, of the nature of consciousness. But is it not that even though there is no sambandha with the upadhi, which are product of Maya, like the cosmic gross body, subtle body, but then how can Atma become free from the association with Maya? Maya sambandha apariharya iti. You might understand that Atma has no association with the manifestations of Maya, with the basic costume, various costumes. But the cause of costumes, Maya, Atma, will remain associated, will it not? Says no. Abadda chakshusho nasti Maya, Maya vinopiva. Even when the magic show is going on, then also abadda chakshusha, for the one who is not under the spell of the magician, the magician himself also, nasti Maya, there is no magic for the one who is not under the spell of magic. And of course for the magician. But dakshasya samaya, that magic and the reality of the elephant, the rider, all of this is only for the one, the spectator who is under the spell of the magician. Amayavi tato bhavet. Therefore, Atma is Amayavi. The reality is one who is devoid of even who is Amayavi? One who is devoid of even association Maya. तथा च ज्ञान अवस्थायां कदाचित प्राणाद्याकारां मायां पश्यन्नपि. So in the knowledge of aham asmi param brahma iti, I am param brahma, that maya cannot stand, darkness cannot stand in the wake of the knowledge. And therefore, when the wise person identifies his own self, there is no maya, there is nothing at all. When he chooses to function through the costume of maya, in that case he would have some kind of perception of the upadhi, of the gross, subtle, causal bodies, etc. would have. And still there is no identification, no reality given to the upadhi. The pratit is there, drishti is not there, perception is there, no reality is given. Just as a person, like Mayavi, even a magician may see his show and still no reality is given to them. Similarly also, the wise person will see the gross world, etc. But then there is no reality in that. No vyamuhyati. He no more gets deluded that what I see is something tangible, real. Kintu sushuptavad nirvikara eva. Like a deep sleeper, regardless of what is going on around, there is no vikara at all. The thief comes and goes and all sorts of things happen. The deep sleeper does not respond in any way. It means nirvikara. So wise person is totally awake. Although the deep sleeper is an example, but here the wise person is totally awake. And therefore also there is no reaction whatever, because no reality is given to anything that is perceived. Iti. साक्षादेव सविज्ञेयः साक्षात् आत्मेति च श्रुतेः भिद्यते हृदय ग्रंथिः न चेदित्यादितः श्रुतेः. तस्मात् साक्षात् ब्रह्मात्म ज्ञानात् अमायावी माया तत्कार्य संबंध विनिर्मुक्तो भवति इत्ययमर्थः श्रुति सिद्धः. So Shruti says that one becomes amayavi. It is possible to own up one's true nature, where one is totally free from any kind of influence of Maya, because Maya can influence only when reality is given to it. Thus, a wise person has the freedom in even not to perceive the Maya. He can withdraw his perception, his mind completely inward, and therefore has the freedom to become devoid of even perception or association Maya, totally abiding himself. Or he has freedom to perceive, function through the mind and organs of perception without in any way being affected by what is perceived. Because that it is mithya is extremely clear. A wise person abides in the knowledge that aham satyam atma is satya and drishya is mithya. That even when drishya is there, perception is there, vyavahara is there, it does not create any vikara. Maya, amayavi, who is amayavi? Maya, tatkarya sambandha nirmuktaha. Amayavi, non-mayavi, meaning one who is free from the maya and even the association with maya. That's what the Shruti says. What we said is what is said in the Shruti. The idea is that now the author validates what he said with the quotations from Upanishads. Sakshadeva sa vigneha Vijnanam Anandam Brahmayati Ukta Lakshano Vigneha Yat Sakshat Aparokshat Brahma iti. That Brahman is Sakshat, the very self. Brahman is known as one's own self, without the intervention of sense organs of the mind, because one becomes self but remains a self, Brahman. The idea is that I am Brahman even when I take myself to be Jiva. All that is necessary is to just shed off, drop up that identification and remain what I am. Sakshat Atma iti cha Shrutehe. Because Shruti says Sakshat Aparokshat Brahma, therefore Atma Sakshadeva Vigneha, he is to be known as the very self, as the immediate reality, as the only reality. Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi. And what is the advantage or benefit of that knowledge? Hridaya Grantihi Vidyate. One becomes free from all the complexes. I am so and so is a complex. I am great, that also is a complex. I am small, also is a complex. Moment something is joined with I am, it becomes limited, however big that is. Even the bigness also does not become free from the sense of limitedness. Because distance of 1 billion with infinity also is infinite. Therefore, all these granthis, I am so and so, the pure human being gives reality to this granthi, I am so and so, and then tries to become big. He wants to enlarge maybe his body, his mind, intellect, his reputation, his power, and feel big. So this Hridaya Granthi tortures the human being. When that complex or the notion about the self-given reality, when cannot become free from sense of limitedness, regardless of how great I am, how great I think I am, and therefore the greatest individual also is not satisfied with the self, because even that greatest as measured in the worldly sense cannot be free from sense of limitation, because it is infinitely separated from infinity. And therefore success is not big in not becoming big. Success is in discovering freedom from smallness. Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi. All these granthis, all these complexes are cut asunder. Ityadita Shrutehe Nachediti. And if the reward is great by this knowledge, but then the loss also is great, that's what Upanishad wants to say. You may say, I don't care for the big reward, I'm all right as I am. You are not. If you don't have the big reward, you have the misery also accompanying. Nachet iha vedit bhati vinashtihi. Here, when you do not know there is a great calamity, you are already in the calamity. Ignorance is going to create a sense of smallness and dividedness and excludedness. And there is no calamity. That is cause of all calamities anyway. One cannot be free from calamities when there is ignorance and therefore a complex. Now continuing with the verse 33. Sakshat Atmajnana Uktam Akshipati. You say that knowledge of self is immediate, sakshat. What is immediate? Not like the objects, knowledge of objects, which is called aparoksha, but where it's done through organs of perception. Not even like knowledge of the mental states, which is also through the mind. Sakshat, without the agency of sense organs of the mind or any instrument, means of knowledge. Akshipati, this is questioned. How can it be? How can Atma be known as immediate reality? How can Atma be known at all? So the next verse 33 says, Ashabdaditvato nasya grahanam chendriyir bhave sukhadibhyastathanyatvat buddhya vapi katham bhavet. बाह्यांतरकरण अग्राह्यत्वात् आत्मा कथम साक्षात् विज्ञानम स्यात्. How can Atma become the object of knowledge? How can you know Atma? Bahya antahkarana grahyatva bhavat. But Atma cannot be grasped by external sense organs, nor can Atma be grasped by inner organ, namely mind. So these are the means of knowledge that we have. The means of knowledge available to us are the organs of perception, with which we know the external objects, and the mind with which we know the all this data brought by the sense organs. And also there is the Sakshi Bhasyam, that Atma, how we know the modes of mind also. Atma does not fall in any of these categories. Ashabdaditvatah, ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, avyayam, tatharasam, nityam, agandhavaccha. Says Kathopanishad that Atma is not an object like Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and they alone can be perceived by organs of perception. Therefore, Atma does not possess the qualifications or attributes required for being perceived by sense organs. For something to be perceived by sense organs, it must possess some attribute, should be able to be heard, seen, felt, tasted, touched. Atma cannot become object of perception by sense organs. Nor it's a feeling, or a thought, or a resolve, or a conviction. So it cannot become the object of mind or the intellect. Sukhadibhyas tatha anyatvat. And Atma is not sukham dukkham, state of mind, is not a resolve, sankalpa, is not also a conviction of the mind, of the intellect. Therefore, katham bhavet buddhya vapi katham bhavet. By buddhi means antahkaranam. How can therefore Atma become the means of knowledge by organs of perception? Because it does not possess the attributes required for being perceived by organs of perception. How can Atma also be known by the mind? Because it is not a feeling, it is not a conviction, it is not a resolve. So Atma does not possess the attributes or the qualifications required for being known. So how can Atma be known? Sakshat Atma Vijnana Muktam. Sakshat Eva Savijneh earlier said that Atma is to be known as an immediate reality. It is not knowable. बाह्यांतःकरण अग्राह्यत्वात् आत्मनः कथं साक्षात् विज्ञानं स्यादिति. बाह्य करण अग्राह्यः, अंतःकरण अग्राह्यः. Therefore, katham sakshat vijnanam, how can Atma be known? This is Naiyayikas. They call it the aproksha jnanam. How can it be? Pariharte, the Vedanta now refutes that view. Next verse. Adrishyopi yatha rahuhu chandre bimbam yathambasi सर्वगोपि तथैवात्मा बुद्धावेव स गृह्यते. Here the teacher chooses to only give us an exception. Who says that if something does not possess any attribute that it can be perceived? Rather than saying that Atma is such and such, therefore cannot be perceived, it doesn't have to be perceived, really speaking. You don't need to perceive Atma, no need to think of Atma. Rather than replying that way, in a very deshi way, the answer is given. This is typical Shastrartha with the Naiyayikas, etc. By giving them an example, exception to the rule that they said. Bhashya karanagrahyatvam, antah karanagrahyatvam. Karanagrahyatvam, something is not grahya, perceived by a karana organ of perception. How can that become the object of knowledge? There is argument by the Naiyayikas that says, how can something be known when it is not an object of perception by the sense organs of the mind? So here is simply an exception to the rule is given, that's all. Adrishyopi yatha rahuhu chandre. In the moon you see Rahu. When there is lunar eclipse, what happens there at that time is there is a shadow of earth on the moon, and that's why you see don't see the moon. That shadow is called Rahu. Adarshya, so you know this is Rahu, Adarshya. Even though Rahu is not an entity that can be perceived because it is not a perceptible entity, and still you see this is Rahu. Just an answer. Bimbam yatha chandre, bimbam yatha ambasi. For in water, just as you see the reflection, even though you do not see the image. So, two things are there. Number one, it can be seen and it can be seen in buddhi. Even though it is not the object of perception by sense organs, it is still known. And even though it is all pervasive, it can still be known in the buddhi. Two things are there. Bimbam yatha ambasi, even though the sun may be all pervasive or moon, then still he can be seen as in the water, reflected in the water. Sarvagopi taseva atma buddha eva sagruhyate. So second one is for how atma can be known in the buddhi. When the atma is all pervasive, still the nature of buddhi it is to reflect atma. Therefore, even all pervasive atma can be seen in buddhi because it is nature of buddhi to reflect atma. Just as the nature of water reflect moon, therefore it can be seen, so also. In short, the two objections are resolved by two exceptions. Objections were based on the general rule that what is not an object of sense organs cannot be known, and what the buddhi cannot grasp also cannot be known. Because buddhi can only grasp something limited, atma being limitless cannot be known by buddhi. To this argument, two exceptions are given. That even though Rahu cannot be perceived by the eyes, still it is known that this is Rahu. It is a shadow. And also, even though the moon may be very large and still seen in the pool of water, which is limited. So says the Tika, Yatha Swarupena Adrushyopi Rahu Chandre Drishyate Yatha Swarupena So Atma is Swarupena Drushya. By nature, Atma is Adrushya, meaning that cannot be perceived by organs of perception. Because Shrotrasya Shrotam, it is even the self of the organ of perception. Chakshu hai Chakshu. Chakshu cannot perceive. All this will come later on anyway. So just as Rahu, which is Swarupana Drushya, it doesn't have a form, or that you can perceive. Chandre, Chandramandale, Uparakto, Dushyate, and then also you can see it in the orb of moon during the lunar eclipse. So that which is not, which unseen or not seeable also is seen or known. Rahu that cannot be perceived by sense organs is known nevertheless. For knowing the Rahu, it is not necessary that the Rahu should be objectified by the eyes or the organs of perception. So also for knowing Atma, there is no rule that Atma should be objectified. That's all. The argument is replied. It doesn't tell you how to know Atma, but it says your argument. First of all, let us settle these issues. How can you know Atma when it cannot be objectified by organs of perception? Look at Rahu. It cannot be objectified with eyes, and still it is known as conditioning moon, uparaktaha, as eclipsing the moon. How Rahu is seen? Uparakta means eclipse. So one example, meaning that even though Atma is not the object of perception by organs of perception, it can be known, just as Rahu is. Bimbam yatha ambasi yatha va ambasi jale chandradehe bimbam dushyate. The Chandra comes in both the places, but in a different way. In case of Rahu, Chandra comes as eclipsed. Here the moon comes as the bimba or image reflected in the water. Yatha ambasi jale chandradehe bimbam drishyate. How moon is so large and still can be seen in a pool of water. Tathaiva, in a manner similar to that, Chakshuradi, agocharopi, saparamatma. Chakshuradi, agochara, even though he is not perceptible by chakshu, by eyes and organs of perception, still he can be known like the Rahu. Sarvagopi comes from the verse Sarvagopi, who the Atma is all pervasive. How can all pervasive Atma be known in Buddhi which is so little? So, just as a large moon also is seen in a small pool of water, so also even the Atma is large, all pervasive, can be seen in Buddhi. This argument gives only exception to the rule, that's all. There is no intention of the eclipse, etc. These are only exceptions to the rule that the Purva Pakshi said to prove his point, that your position is not right. You cannot generalize. You cannot generalize that just because something cannot be perceived by sense organ that it cannot be known. You cannot generalize that something that is all pervasive also cannot be known in the Buddhi. You cannot generalize. Because these are the exceptions. So all that is necessary is to let go that conclusion that I cannot know Atma. How can I know Atma when I can't perceive it? How can I know Atma? This is all pervasive. So let go of this conclusion, that's all. Then we'll tell you how to know. But one will not proceed to know when there is a conclusion that is not knowable. There is a conclusion that Atma is not knowable, you won't even attempt to know it. Then by these arguments, what is sought to be achieved, accomplished is that this conclusion that Atma is not knowable is not the right conclusion, because there are exceptions, so you can't generalize that Atma is not knowable. Are the examples of Rahu, which is seen even though not the object of eyes, like the reflection which is seen in a small pool of water, even though Chandra itself is large. Sa Paramatma Sarvagopi Saratra Vartamanopi. Whether it is Paramatma, Apnoti Atma, or Vyapnoti Atma, is all pervasive. Saratra Vartamanopi, even though Atma is all pervasive, present everywhere. Tattvamashyadi Mahavakyatva Buddha eva Pratibimbasan Gruhyate. Just an answer. That even though you do not see it being reflected in the buddhi that you have now, but if you get a special kind of buddhi, the buddhi attains a special state which is a result of the teaching Tattvamasi. Who am I? I don't see any. Who am I? You are Brahman. So when that Upadesha is given to the aspirant in the right state of mind, where now his mind is free from all other preoccupations, totally focused. Who am I? You are Brahman. And therefore, even though Brahman is all pervasive, he sees it. Therefore, Buddha eva Pratibimbita San, as though reflected in the buddhi, he sees the self as Brahman. That's a reflection model. Because the moment you say reflection, then there is a problem. So it says, Tatra Pratibimbataya Svatasphurna eva Grahanam. Not that Atma is seen as reflected in the buddhi. No. The example of the pool of water and moon was to convey that even something that is very large or all pervasive can be seen in a small pool of water. So Atma, that is all pervasive, can be seen in a small buddhi. Not that it is seen that way. Tatra pratibimbataya svatasfuranam eva grahanam. But pratibimba is meant that Atma shines on its own, not that it gets reflected or anything like that. Atma is always self-shining, always known. When the buddhi gives up identification of everything else, then all complexes are gone. What makes the self-shining Atma limited? What creates conclusion of limitedness about the self-pervasive Atma is not buddhi, mind, etc., identification buddhi. The body, mind, etc. cannot make Atma limited. It is identification with them that creates the notion of limitedness. So what is that buddhi when he is given up all identifications? I am not the body he sees. It is all drishya. I am a drashta. I am the drashta. So all panchakosha identification is given up, all sharis, avasthatra, shariratra is given up by the drishya viveka. Then Vivek says, I don't see anything. That's, hey, you are the very truth of the seer. You don't have to see anything. Just be what you are. Tatra pratibimbataya svatasfuranam eva grahanam. In buddhi, the grahanam, the perception, knowledge of Atma is Atma, there is self-shining, not that it is reflected in buddhi. The reflection is just an example to show how something which is very large also can be seen in a small pool of water. That's all. No reflection is intended in the case of Atma. Swata Sfuranam, the self is always shining, and it can be recognized as such in the buddhi. No Vishayi Bhava. Not that Atma is to be seen as a reflection, as something that I see a reflection of Atma in my buddhi. No. Just you are shining, self-shining. Shastraika gamyasyapi pratyakshatve Rahu dushtantah. Rahu is a dushtanta for pratyakshatve, for something that is perceived immediately, even though not the object of organ of perception. So Atma is not the object of perception. Shastrai gamya. Atma can be known only through the statement of Shastra, can't be perceived through organs, etc. So even though Rahu cannot be perceived by organs, still it is known. So Atma is Shastrai gamya, is not Indriya gamya, not Antahkarana gamya. Shastri gamya means only seen, known by Shastra, means recognized by Shastra. Shastra does not make you see Atma. Shastra enables you to recognize the Atma that is already shining. Examples will not go all the way, because all the example of things that are all achetana. Atma is chetana, therefore this clarification is required. Even Shastra cannot reveal Atma, cannot eliminate Atma, just enable me to recognize Atma, that's all. Sarvasannihitaya bhasamanasya sarvatra yathavat asfuratopi. Sarvatra yathavat bhasamanasya. Even though sannihitataya Atma is most proximate, self-shining, and still asfuratah, still Atma does not shine as the object of my perception. Therefore you may think that Atma cannot be known because sarva sannihitataya bhasamanasya. Atma shines the most proximate, and therefore can't be objectified. Shines as the very subject, can't be objectified. Upadi visheshe yathavat sfurane. Still when the mind or the buddhi gains a state when all attempts of objectification are given up, what the buddhi needs to do is to give up its tendency or habit of objectifying. Buddhi has always known things as an object. Therefore, whenever it comes the question of knowing, buddhi tries to objectify. So teacher says, therefore, na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, na manah. Anya devatat viditat, atho aviditat. Know it as your own self. So it is not known in an objective manner, but doesn't mean that it cannot be known, because it is self-effulgent. So Pratibindushtanta is this yathavat sfurane, it is self-shining, not shining as a reflection. That's not the idea. How something that is all pervasive and still can be seen as though in a limited pool, so also all pervasive Atma being very self shines, is not objectified in the buddhi, shines in the buddhi. Buddho bodhatma gruhyate ched. The next question, bodhatma, Atma of the nature of bodha consciousness, buddho gruhyate ched. If Atma, the consciousness, is gruhyate, known, perceived, grasped in buddhi. So Vedantin says that it is known in the buddhi, that the I am Brahman is the conviction arises in the buddhi. That way he says is known in buddhi. Where there is conviction, I am a Jiva, that gets transformed, I am Brahman. Nothing else happens. Right now also I am Brahman. And I is shining as Brahman. But because of identification, then I look upon myself as Jiva. When identification is given up because of Shruti helps me to give up identification and recognize myself self-shining, limitless. That's how Buddho Bodhatma Gruhyate Chet. Bodhatma, the nature of self, which is Bodha or consciousness, can be Gruhyate, can be known in the Buddhi. Buddhi Dharma, Bodha iti Shankam. Then what is Bodha? Buddhi Dharma. What is knowledge? Knowledge is the nature of Buddhi. Knowledge always takes place in Buddhi, Bodha. Therefore, Ghatajnanam, Patajnanam, they are all the nature of Buddhi. Ghatakara Buddhi Vritti, Patakara. So it is our experience that any knowledge that takes place in the Buddhi is the attribute of Buddhi. So different, you see, Shanka means these are our conclusions from our day-to-day experiences. All our conclusions are derived from our life, which is based on giving reality to duality. Therefore, the different questions arise. This is the process of unfolding nature of self, by the way. It's not simply arguing with somebody or refuting somebody. In that process, what the teacher is doing is becoming subtler and subtler and unfolding the nature of Atma, unfolding nature of the knowledge. Buddhi Dharma Bodha. If Atma is known in Buddhi, then Atma becomes the attribute of Buddhi. Just as when Ghata is known in Buddhi, that becomes the attribute of Buddhi. Buddhi takes the form of Ghata, etc. Iti Shankam Dushnatena Pratyachaste. These doubts are all based on our present way of thinking. Whether it's Nayayika or we are all Nayayika, so we have way of thinking right now. Because of which we ask, our mind asks this question, therefore these questions are raised and then they are resolved. Dushtantena pratyajaste. It is refuted or resolved with the help of a dushtanta or illustration. Because by illustration we have come to these conclusions. So by illustration we have to get over the conclusions. Bhanohoiti. Next one says, Bhanorbhimbam yatha chaushnyam jale drustam nacham bhasah buddho bodho na taddharmah tathaiva syat vidharmatah. Simple but brilliant example. To make our mind say this is an exception, so give up your preconceived notion. You have drawn conclusion in life based on your limited experience. Take into account all experiences, then all your conclusions will drop. Every conclusion will go in our life. Every conclusion is only drawn based on taking something limited as all, taking part as a whole. All we can perceive or know is a part. And from part alone we are in the habit of drawing conclusions of the whole. Similarly, all kinds of conclusions in our life are based on this. What we have been perceiving is part and drawing conclusion, generalizing everything. Everybody is like that. All men are like, all women are like that, Hindus are like that. Generalize. That's a habit. You've seen, how many people have you seen? How many Hindus have you known? How many Muslims have you known? How many, how do you say all Hindus are like that, all Muslims are like that, all Christians are like that, everybody is like that? So in our mind also we have to be watchful about these conclusions. That we always perceive a part, even of a person. You perceive a part of a person and then conclude about the whole person. Our life is based on all these conclusions. About this is the generalizations. It's a habit of drawing conclusions about whole based on the part. So drishtantena pratyachaste, here drishtanta is given to make us free from that habit. Bhanoho bimbam yatha cha ushnim jale dushtam. We find that when the sun gets reflected in water, water becomes lighted up and water becomes warm also. When the sun gets reflected in water, you find that water becomes warm, is it not so? And becomes lighted also. So dushtam, this lightedness and warmth belong to sun which are experienced in water. But then water does not become lighted, water does not become warm, meaning that the warmth and the light or illumination are only seen in water, they are not the nature of water. Just because you see them in water doesn't become they become nature of water. What is the argument? You see it in buddhi, that it becomes nature of buddhi, is it not so? When you see a ghata in the mind, then the mind becomes the nature of ghata. Similarly also, all knowledge is of the nature of buddhi. No? You see it in buddhi, it doesn't mean that it is nature of buddhi. You see it in water, doesn't mean it's nature of water. You see the brightness in water, you can see warmth in the water, which belong to sun. They do not become the nature of water. When reflection goes away, water is what it is. That's ambasaha. So tika says yatha jale dushtam bimbam aushnyam cha bhanuheva. Yatha jale dushtam bimbam. Just as the bimba reflection is seen in the water, aushnyam cha, bimba is used for reflection as well as image, so usually then we try to use pratibimba for reflection, bimba for image, but bimba is also used for reflection. So then you have to say object and reflection, that's what you have to say. Yatha jale dushtam bimbam aushnyam cha bhano eva. Just as the reflection that you see in the water and the warmth that you find in the water, they belong to bhanu, sun, they do not belong to water, even when you see and feel there. Even when you experience them in water, the brightness and warmth do not belong to water. They belong to sun. That's ambasaha jalasya dharmaha. They do not change the dharma or the nature of water. Tasya shaitya swabhavyat. Because the nature of water is coolness, shaityam, and remains cool, and therefore comes back to its own nature once the reflection is gone. Tatheva buddho sfuran bodha na buddhidharma buddho bodho na tad dharma. Similarly also, you may see a ghata, pata, etc. in the buddhi. Ghata jnanam, pata jnanam, they do not change the buddhi. Na buddhi dharmasya, they appear in buddhi, they get reflected in buddhi, and though temporarily looks like buddhi has become ghata. His buddhi is stinking, buddhi is smelling, buddhi is fragrant. That is, as long as the object is reflected, it is not changed the nature of buddhi. Just as the reflection of sun does not change the nature of water, so also these objects do not change the nature of buddhi. Kutaha, why do you say that? Vidharmataha, the reason is given, hetu is given. Fifth case. Viparita dharmataha, just as the water's nature is shaityam, coolness, and therefore the warmth that you see in water, it doesn't belong to water. Because water, nothing can change the nature of things. So reflection cannot change the nature of water. Water's nature is quite contrary to warmth. So the Buddhi's nature is quite contrary to knowledge. Knowledge is consciousness, Buddhi is unconscious. विपरीत धर्मतः बुद्धेः जाड्य धर्मत्व विनिश्चयाद इत्यर्थः. It is known, very well known, that Buddhi is unconscious, being product of five elements, and still reflects consciousness. So, if consciousness was the nature of Buddhi, Buddhi should change and become conscious, doesn't become. So, just as the brightness is seen in water doesn't make the water bright, otherwise at night also will shine. Warmth is felt in water doesn't make the water warm, otherwise you can always swim. So also the consciousness is seen in the Buddhi does not make Buddhi conscious, is not the nature of Buddhi. And therefore, otherwise consciousness will be conditioned by Buddhi. Consciousness also will become conditioned, become unconscious, or limited by Buddhi. No, it's just seen in the Buddhi. It neither changes the nature of Buddhi, nor it is where it is seen. न केवलम शास्त्रीय बुद्धयो चिद्धातु परमात्मा स्फुरति. शास्त्रीय बुद्धि. What is शास्त्रीय बुद्धि? अहम ब्रह्मास्मि. से तत्वमस्यादि महावाक्योऽर्थ बुद्धि. When the Buddhi has given up all identifications, so far the Buddhi was claiming, I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. And the teacher guides this one and therefore sees that no, I am not the body. Recognizes I am the drashta, the witness, not the mind, I am not the body, not the sense organs, not the mind, not the intellect. But he is accustomed to seeing something and then I don't see anything now. Then who am I? Then it says, Tattvamasi, you are Brahman, you are self-shining, you are stop looking. The first is to give up identity, then stop looking out there, just be what you are. In that buddhi, tattvamasyadi mahavakyata buddhi, that buddhi, that is the result of the mahavakya, you are Brahman. Meaning all attempts of seeing also is given up. Just be what you are. This is called Shastriya Buddhi. Aham Brahmasmi. What is Shastriya Buddhi? Buddhi which is born of the Upadesha of Shastra. Is it there only Chiddhatu? Chiddhatu means pure consciousness. Is that only the consciousness is seen or shine? Seen means, is that where only the consciousness shines? Is it that the sun shines only in pure water? Does it shine in impure water also? The example may be sun shining in pure water, making the water bright, making the water warm. But what if the water is not clean? Water is not steady. The sun gets reflected anyway. So also Atma gets reflected in Buddhi anyway. Whether Buddhi is Shastriya Buddhi, Aham Brahmasmi, or it is Vyavaharik Buddhi. So Pitaham, Mataham, Jivoham, in there also the consciousness shines. It is nature of water to reflect any shining objects, also nature of Buddhi to reflect consciousness. You will not recognize the true nature of self because of the impurities in the Buddhi, etc. But don't think that Atma does not shine in the ignorant Buddhi. It does. So, says the next verse, Chakshuryukta dhiyo vrittihi yatam pasyan luptadrika drashter drashta bhavedatma Shrute Shrota Tatha Bhaved. Chakshur Yukta Dhyo Vritti. So, Dhyo Vritti, the Vritti or the state of the mind, Chakshuhu Yukta. So, the mind becomes conditioned by the object perceived by the eyes. When the eyes perceive color and form, then a vritti of that nature forms chakshushi vritti. So, because of perception through chakshu, that influences the buddhi, and therefore buddhi becomes chakshushi buddhi. Like buddhi becomes the colored full buddhi, the form full buddhi, etc. And Shravani buddhi, also buddhi gets attribute of sound, etc. That is because when the buddhi goes out through the chakshu or sense organs and contacts the object, takes the form of that object. Chakshu yukta dhyo vritti. So dhyo vritti, the buddhi vritti is chakshushi vritti, shravani vritti, etc. influenced by the chakshu, by shrotram. Tam pashyan aluptadruk, but that buddhi also is seen. Meaning that the vritti of the mind, which is the ghatakar vritti, patakar vritti, shabdakar vritti, sparshakar vritti, also is perceived by the mind. Not by the intellect, by the consciousness, aluptadruk. Because consciousness always shines and therefore illumines anything. The sun shines, illumines anything. If the water is clean, then also it illumines and gets reflected. If the water is dirty, then also it gets, because that is the nature of sun. So nature of Atma is aluptadruk, ever seeing, ever shining, ever illumining. That's the nature of Atma. Whatever it is gets illumined. If the buddhi is without any form, gets illumined. Buddhi is a form of the color and form, etc. That also gets illumined. So not that Atma illumines or gets reflected only in the Tattvamasi buddhi. Atma gets reflected also in Chakshushi vritti, Shravani vritti. If the water has form, water is shaking, whatever, still sun gets reflected. So Tika says, Chakshur Dwarika Rupakara Yadhiya Vritti. Chakshur Yukta Dhyo Vritti. That's explained how buddhi vritti is influenced by the chakshu, and therefore the buddhi gets the form of the object of chakshu, like the Ruparanga. So Chakshur Dwarika, when the buddhi goes out through the gateway of the chakshu or the eyes, then the buddhi assumes the form of that object like ghatapata. Rupakara buddhi, therefore the buddhi takes a rupa which can be form as well as color. Ya dhiya vritti, that vritti of the dhi or the mind. Tam pasyan, that also Atma sees. When buddhi has no form at all, there is Atmakara buddhi, that also is illumined. And when buddhi is ghatakara, tam pashyan avhasayan, then also Atma illumines that. Why? Aluptadruk. Because Atma never ceases to shine. Luptadruk, one who ceases to see. Aluptadruk never ceases to see. He is unceasing seer. That will be further explained. Building up the ground for what the Upanishad teaches subsequently. Akuntita jnana shakti. So drishte drashta bhavet. That ghatakar vritti is drishti. Ghatakar vritti is that with which we perceive the ghata. And Atma becomes illuminator of that also. There is drishte drashta. Drishti is a buddhi vritti. And drashta Atma is the drashta, the witness, the illuminator also of the drishti, which is the buddhi vritti. What is drishti? Chakshur dvarika rupakara vritti. Shrutehe Shruta Tatha Bhaved Matehe Manta. Goes on in the next verse also. Eva Uttaratravi Yojyam. So also becomes Drashte, Drishte, Drashta, Shrutehe Shruta, Matehe Manta, Vijñatehe Vijñata. Where Shruti, Drishti, Shruti, Mati, Vijñati, these are all the states of the mind. The Drishti is the state of mind because of the going out through the Drik or the Chakshu. Shruti is the state of mind of listening because of the association of the organ of listening. Mati is the state of mind called thinking because of the association of the mind. Vijñati is the knowing is the state of mind because of the association of buddhi, the knowing faculty. Thus the buddhi or antahkarana keeps on changing its state depending upon what influences it. But all these forms are illumined by the Atma who remains unchanged, abiding its own nature of ever illuminating. Iti. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.